My kind of life, my kind of life, yes, and I like it. But my kind of life, my kind of life, my kind of life, yes, and I like it.
Hello and welcome again to the Cliff Clips with Petra. Tonight I will also pay tribute to Little Richard, just like Paul, Nate and Terry did. But first, a This Day in Cliff history clip. The 15th of May 1970, when Cliff was performing in the play Five-Finger Exercise at the Bromley New Theatre. The opening night was on the 11th, and he took 8 curtain calls then. But on the 15th, Cliff was interviewed on the set.
Born just 30 years ago in India, he leapt to fame in the top television pop show of the late 50s, Oh Boy. He's been at the top of the pop business ever since, and he's done just about the lot. Successful movies, musicals, and top of the charts time and time again. Now he's taking his career one stage further, playing the part of Clive in Peter Shaffer's Five-Finger Exercise, pop singer Cliff Richard. In this scene from the play, Clive is giving his sister Pamela a rather unusual history lesson.
Which was the most uncertain dynasty in Europe?
I haven't the faintest.
The Habsburgs.
Who?
The Habsburgs.
Oh, now, Clive,
Now, I don't
really?
know much about them as yet, but I'm working on it. I should have it all fixed up by the weekend. So far, we have Thomas the Tentative, a successor of Doubting Thomas, of course, and Vladimir the Vague.
That's marvellous. What about a woman?
By all means.
Dorothea.
Nice.
Dorothea the, downright.
But that's just the opposite. There's nothing perhaps about her.
Well, she could be the black sheep of the family.
Very well, we'll see. Now, come on, pay attention. Right, now, who was known as the Crying Cavalier?
Oh, now, Clive, really?
Answer me who?
I don't know.
Well, then who was the unknown civilian?
I don't know.
Who was the curable romantic?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, really, you are the most impossibly ignorant child. I've never, ever had to test anybody in history who doesn't know anything at all. So for not knowing, you can take 5 million lines and go and then come back.
That was marvellous.
Where did you come from?
From outside. Are you having a good time?
I'm loving it, actually. One of the most exciting things I've ever done.
You obviously are.
I really am. I find it exhausting, mind you. By the way, talking about exhausting, would you like a drink? A stage whiskey?
Well, I'd like a whiskey.
You're going to have them because I have to have 3 a night.
Oh, really?
Would you like brandy or whiskey? Actually, it doesn't matter because they're all the same, except the brandy has a little more gravy browning in it.
All right, well, I'm partial to gravy
I
browning.
really am going to look forward to watching you drink this, I tell you. There it is, folks.
Aren't you having one?
I have 3 a night.
Oh. Cheers.
Cheers. Good luck.
Ugh.
Oh, it's not as bad as that.
I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to drink it 3 times.
Mind you, I did cheat. I do put soda in mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what makes me burp, actually. I can't wait to get off and burp.
Gives it a bit of a kick.
Right.
Now, when did you think of going straight, as you might say?
Well, in actual fact, about 3 or 4 years ago, I quite fancied the idea of doing something a little more demanding. And, in fact, my first attempt was in a film called Two a Penny, which was the first sort of real role that I'd ever been offered. And I enjoyed doing that, but that was 3 years ago, and I did a TV play as well, to keep myself exercised.
Yeah.
And then this opportunity turned up, and I chose to be in Five-Finger Exercise.
You have recently, I know, because I've seen you, been doing a lot more sketch work in your television shows. Was that a kind of preparation?
Well, not really, no. I mean, I didn't consciously think, oh, I'll do this and it'll be preparation for the next step. But no, not at all. It's just necessary, I think, in those kind of shows that one is involved. At least I think so. I mean, with Una and Hank, I felt that, well, there's no need for anybody else to be in the show because we can do it all ourselves, you know, and I think that's the reason why we did it. But obviously it does help. I think comedy, I mean, I don't know whether we really succeeded totally as comedians, but we had a go at it. But it is important for timing and things like that.
You say you wanted something more demanding. How does playing in a straight play like this make more demands on you?
Well, it demands on your concentration. You see, it's so easy to be in Summer Holiday, where you sort of say, well, I'm the character that says, I've got a great idea, let's paint the bus red and we'll go on a trip to Greece, you know. And there's no depth necessary in any of the characters because they're all us anyway, ourselves, really. And whereas having to play a part and having to try and think in a different way and say things that you wouldn't normally say anyhow, I think is far more demanding.
Is your life different now that you're working here at Bromley?
No, not really. I do the same old things that I would do if I had time off at home during the day. It's like coming to a theatre to do a concert, really, other than the fact that the atmosphere is different anyway. It's a different scene altogether, somehow more polite. I get called Mr. Richard over the Tanaway, which I rather like. My main problem was, and it was wrong of me to think this because it's been proven wrong, that I thought, well, goodness me, how am I going to face all these actors, you know, the actor types, and will they sort of accept me, or will they think I'm just horning in and being cocky with it, you know? But they've been fantastic. I mean, they really have. It's been incredible. And I felt immediately part of the whole scene. I don't feel like someone creeping in and trying to come in the back door. I feel as though I'm part of it, and they've been great to me.
What are your plans now? Are you going to go on in the legitimate theatre, or what's going to happen?
Well, I'd like to think that other people would like to use me again. You know, I would hate to think this was the first and last time I ever have a chance to do it. I want to make it clear, though, to all that I'm not dissatisfied with my pop career at all. I'm very happy with it. I just want to add to it and build to it, for my own sake too. I mean, you know, one can get stale in a way, doing things that one knows one can do. I mean, I know that it's easy to sing the type of songs I do. You know, I find it particularly easy. So therefore, for my own sake, I want to grow as a person, and I think doing these kind of stretching things helps you to mature and grow up.
Cliff, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Last Saturday, Cliff paid tribute to Little Richard, who passed away at the age of 87.
Hi, more sad news, I'm afraid. Little Richard died. I hated hearing that. And because I had a soft spot for him, I mean, you know, my name originally was Harry Webb. I didn't think that was right for a rock and roll singer, so I changed it ultimately to Cliff Richard. Now, the Richard was a tribute to Little Richard. So, Little Richard, God bless you. There will never be, ever be, another Little Richard. Rest in peace.
Now we can listen to and watch a live Little Richard concert from November 1966, which was recorded in Paris. And because Cliff was inspired by Little Richard, our Cliff also recorded some of his songs. Whole Lot of Shakin', Good Golly Miss Molly, Rip It Up, and Tutti Frutti. Well, that was the Little Richard segment. On the 9th of May 2014, Cliff was interviewed on Sunrise, an Australian television show.
Our next guest is music royalty. So Cliff Richard has released 100 albums in a career spanning more than 50 years.
It's amazing, isn't it? The 73-year-old British icon is still as popular as ever, with his latest album cracking the top 10 in the Australian music charts this very week. He's still at the top of his game, so Cliff is adored by the public and has friends in high places.
No, I don't have a tattoo. I've never really fancied machinery, and if you're lucky, it also looks good. And therefore, I never felt like tattooing, because I thought that's going to be with me forever, and when I get to be 90, I may not. I wish I couldn't have done it. So I've stayed clear of it, really.
What are your other vices? Come on, fess up.
I'm not going to talk about vices. I'm not sure. And if I did have a vice, I certainly wouldn't make it public.
This could get you a headline, though. You've been after the trouble for so long. We could create it for you.
Well, who needs headlines if after 56 years I can still get an album in the Australian top 10?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show what great taste the Australians have.
Yeah.
And of course, if it gets to #1, you'll really prove it.
Exactly. So there are a lot of, young artists like Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus who seem to get into trouble very, very quickly. Why do you think that is nowadays? What advice would you give?
It's hard to tell, really, without knowing them. I've never met either of them. I've seen them performing. To me, they seem to be really good performers. When these youngsters come up in front of us these days, they can sing, they can dance, they can act, they play instruments. We never could do any of those things. When the Shadows and I started, we kind of came from nowhere, and we had to learn everything as we went along, and it was a different kind of world then. But I do think that we had people that loved us enough to give us really great advice, to be able to say, no, don't do that. I don't think that will work. You shouldn't do that. I just hope that they grow out of this, because they really are good performers, and it would be a shame if they ruined what could be a very long career by doing the wrong things now.
Yep, absolutely.
So, maybe they just got to get someone around them that will advise them and say, no, this is not good for you to do.
Yeah.
So when are you coming back to Australia? First time 1961. When are you coming back? In particular, can we lock you in for a Sunrise performance?
Listen, if you can certainly lock me in, but I couldn't tell you when, because it seems like only yesterday that we're there. The tour that I'm doing now in Europe, by the way, I'm not in London, I'm in Dublin, Ireland. I've been rehearsing here, and we start our tour next week in Hamburg, and then go to Berlin and Oberhausen, and I'll be all around Europe. But this tour started, it's exactly the show that I did when I was in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Newcastle, Perth, and in New Zealand too. And so it's the same tour, so it feels to me as though it was just yesterday that we were, because only today with my band at rehearsals we were all talking about what it was like when we did this first in Australia, and we were talking about it as though it was last week.
Glad to hear we saw.
Leave a couple of years.
Yeah, glad to hear we saw it first, and we wish you well on the current tour. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations again. Sir Cliff Richard's album.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The fabulous rock and roll songbook is out now. If you haven't bought your mum a Mother's Day gift yet, I reckon this could be it. He's a legend,
isn't he? Yeah, completely.
There, Cliff was talking about his fabulous rock and roll songbook. Rip It Up was released on that album, just like Raven, and more songs from the early days of rock and roll, like Such a Night and Johnny Be Good. And more gems on that album are Don't Let Go and Wake Up Little Susie. That's all for tonight. Thanks for listening and watching. Have a good day or a good night and enjoy the weekend. But remember to stay safe. Bye.
My kind of life, yes, and I like it, my kind of life.